collaborator, Mr. Nick Hunt, from the Dark Mountain Project, reading from the manifesto, and we hope that this is inspiring to you as it is to us. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you for listening to me even though I'm not singing. So, the reason why I asked Evie and Stephen why they wanted me to speak before they play, and it comes from something called the Dark Mountain Project. I'm just going to explain about it very briefly. Stephen said he stumbled upon it. Evie said they crashed into it, and I think I similarly encountered this movement of writers and artists and poets and thinkers. I'm going to read from the manifesto that started this. It's notoriously hard to describe, but that's what it is. It's at heart a movement of thinkers who believe that stopped believing, rather, the stories that our civilization tells itself. And I hope what I read will make that bit clearer. We're looking for new ways to tell stories, essentially. And that can involve art, that can involve music, that can involve poetry and essays and interviews and anything in between. But new ways to tell stories that reflect the reality of the times that we live in, a time of different forms of crisis. We want our cultural responses to reflect reality rather than denying it. We've been going for about 5 years. It started out with this document I hold in my hand, which was a manifesto written by a novelist called Paul Kingsnorth and a philosopher called Dougal Hine. And out of this kind of call to arms, for want of a better phrase, has come over the years 7 rather beautiful hardback anthologies of poetry and writing and artwork, 2 albums which nobody really expected, and that is also what links Evie Vine to us, is that musicians have started coming into what was originally conceived of as a kind of writer's circle. We even accidentally ran a series of festivals without really meaning to. And now these festivals have kind of spilled out. There's one in Scotland, there's one in Sweden, there's one in Canada. So this movement is kind of taking root around the world. Personally, why I came to it is because it felt like this expressed something that I'd been feeling for a long time, but had not known it. And I certainly didn't know how to put these vague feelings into words. So I'm just going to read something from this document so you have some kind of idea of what I'm talking about. The myth of progress is founded on the myth of nature. The first tells us that we are destined for greatness. The second tells us that greatness is cost-free. Both is intimately bound up with the other. Each tells us that we are apart from the world, that we began grunting in the primeval swamps as a humble part of something called nature, which we have now triumphantly subdued. The very fact that we have a word for nature is evidence that we do not regard ourselves as part of it. Indeed, our separation from it is a myth, integral to the triumph of our civilization. We are, we tell ourselves, the only species ever to have attacked nature and won. In this, our unique glory is contained. Outside the citadels of self-congratulation, lone voices have cried out against this infantile version of the human story for centuries, but it is only in the past few decades that its inaccuracy has become laughably apparent. We are the first generation to grow up surrounded by evidence that our attempt to separate ourselves from nature has been a grim failure, proof not of our genius, but our hubris. The attempt to sever the hand from the body has endangered the progress we hold so dear, and it has endangered much of nature too. The resulting upheaval underlies the crisis we now face. We imagined ourselves isolated from the source of our existence. The fallout from this imaginative error is all around us. A quarter of the world's mammals are threatened with imminent extinction. 1.5 acres of rainforest is felled every second. 75% of the world's fish stocks are on the verge of collapse. Humanity consumes 25% more of the world's natural products than the Earth can replace. Even through the deadening lens of statistics, we can glimpse the violence to which these myths have driven us. These are the facts, or some of them. Yet facts never tell the whole story. The facts of environmental crisis we hear so much about often conceal as much as they expose. We hear daily about the impacts of our activities on the environment, like nature and expression, which distances us from the reality of our situation. Daily we hear too of the many solutions to these problems, solutions which usually involve the necessity of urgent political agreement and the judicious application of human technological genius. Things may be changing, runs the narrative, but there is nothing we cannot deal with here, folks. We perhaps need to move faster, more urgently. Certainly we need to accelerate the pace of research and development. We accept that we must become more sustainable, but everything will be fine. There will still be growth, there will still be progress. These things will continue, because they have to continue, so they cannot do anything but continue. There is nothing to see here. Everything will be fine. So this really sprang out of an attempt to ask, what if everything isn't fine? What if things aren't going to be all right? And this is kind of heresy for a lot of the environmental movement among other people, but we were accused instantly of being doom and gloom and collapsitarians and giving up. That was the main accusation, you're giving up. You're just saying, fuck it, throw your hands in the air, you can't do anything, let the forest be cut down, what can we do? That isn't really what we're saying. The attempt to see reality clearly was confused with nihilism, but there's nothing nihilistic about focusing on the things that make us human, and it's a way of paying tribute to our own lives and also to the lives of the countless other life forms that inhabit the world around us. It's an attempt to get past this kind of gritted teeth optimism of everything is really bad, but a politician will come and sort this out, or we just need one more campaign with placards and that'll be the big push we need. Or let's seed the oceans with iron filings, or let's put reflective balloons into the atmosphere, all these increasingly crazy kind of technological solutions that sound more and more like the ramblings of a completely delusional person. So we believe that just by looking straight at reality, seeing what's coming, this might be the hope beyond the false hope that we need. It sounds very grand, but it's really about changing consciousness, and that's why it's so important that musicians like Evie Vine and writers of all descriptions and thinkers of all descriptions are coming to us. So hopefully that gives an idea of what this is about. If you are interested, look up Dark Mountain Project. You'll find our blog, you'll find information about our books. I hope it's just sparked something. I don't know if anything about what I've said has resonated with you as it did with me when I first read this manifesto. And I'd just like to end with a poem, which is where the project takes its name from. An American poet called Robinson Jeffers, who wrote this in 1935, and he's one of the kind of first guiding lights that inspired this document. The poem's called Rearmament. These grand and fatal movements towards death. The grandeur of the mass makes pity a fool. The tearing pity for the atoms of the mass, the persons, the victims, makes it seem monstrous to admire the tragic beauty they build. It is beautiful as a river flowing, or a slowly gathering glacier on a high mountain rock face, bound to plough down a forest, or as frost in November, the gold and flaming death dance for leaves, or a girl on the night of her spent maidenhood, bleeding and kissing. I would burn my right hand in the slow fire to change the future. I should do foolishly. The beauty of modern man is not in the persons, but in the disastrous rhythm, the heavy and mobile masses, the dance of the dream-led masses down the dark mountain. Thank you very much.